The woman behind the locked door. She had spent 14 years hiding a daughter from me, and when I finally met the girl in 2025, she whispered words that shattered my entire marriage. At 44, she carried the grace of a woman who had learned to survive storms, a Black middle-class woman who had clawed her way through heartbreak, rebuilding herself piece by piece. Her life with Daniel, her husband of 6 years, was not perfect, but it was stable, or so she convinced herself to believe. Until the morning she heard it, a soft, hesitant knock behind the old guest room door, a room Daniel never allowed her to enter. Victoria froze. "Hey, everybody. So glad you decided to hang out with me for this story. Seriously, thanks for listening. If you dig what you hear, a subscribe and hitting that little notification thingy really helps the channel out. Don't forget to do that. Also, I'm super nosy and love seeing where you all are listening from. Drop your city in the comments so I can shout out your corner of the globe. All right, enough from me. Let's get into the story. Hope you enjoy it." The house was silent, except for the nervous tapping, a rhythm of fear. No one should be inside. Daniel had left for work an hour ago. Her pulse quickened as she approached, every step echoing like a countdown. "Hello?" she whispered. Silence. But then, a trembling voice seeped through the wood like a ghost escaping captivity. "Please don't tell him I spoke." Victoria's heart slammed into her ribs. The voice was young, female, afraid. Her breath faltered. She steadied her hand on the doorknob and turned it. The room was dim, curtains drawn tight. In the corner stood a girl, no older than 17, tall, thin, eyes wide with terror and exhaustion. But it wasn't her fear that struck Victoria like lightning. It was the girl's face, the familiar shape of her husband's eyes staring back from a stranger. Victoria staggered a step backward. "Who are you?" she whispered. The girl clutched her backpack to her chest as if expecting punishment. "My name is Amara," she said. Her voice cracked. "I'm your stepdaughter." The world stopped spinning. Stepdaughter? Victoria's mind resisted the word, rejected it, pushed against its weight. But something deep inside her already knew the truth. Amara took a trembling breath. "And I've been living here for 3 months. Your husband didn't want you to know about me." Victoria felt the ground vanish beneath her feet. Her husband had been hiding a daughter inside their home for months. But then the girl said something even worse, something that would ignite a chain of events far darker than infidelity. "He said you might help me," Amara whispered, tears gathering at the edge of her lashes. "He said, they're coming for me." Victoria's stomach twisted. "Who's coming?" Amara looked toward the window as if expecting shadows to rise. And then she whispered the sentence that changed everything. "My mother's killers."
The girl who carried secrets in her eyes? Victoria felt a cold ripple wash through her chest, the kind that steals breath before words. "Killers," she repeated, barely hearing her own voice. Amara nodded, slowly, deliberately, her hands trembling as if she had been holding this confession hostage inside her for too long. "My mother, she didn't die in an accident," the girl said. She swallowed hard. "She was murdered, and I saw the men who did it." The air thickened. Victoria's throat tightened as she stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Why would they come after you?" Amara's eyes flicked toward Victoria, afraid, calculating, exhausted. Because they think I have something my mother hid before she died. A shiver spiraled down Victoria's spine. She felt a sudden urge to protect the child standing before her, but at the same time, a storm of anger rose inside her. Daniel had hidden all this? A daughter? A trauma? A whole second life? "You've been here for 3 months?" Victoria asked, voice trembling with controlled fury. "Yes." A whisper. "I stayed in this room. He told me not to come out when you were home. He said he was trying to keep me safe, but I don't know if I believe him anymore." Victoria pressed her head to her forehead, trying to process this twisted betrayal. Daniel, the man she trusted, had been hiding his daughter like contraband? Like a secret sin? And worse, he had hidden a child running from danger. "Why didn't he tell me?" Victoria asked, though she feared the answer. Amara hesitated. Then, in a small voice, she said, "He told me you would leave him if you knew." Victoria felt her heart crack, not because of the lie Daniel told, but because he believed she was incapable of compassion. But something else burned beneath that hurt. What if Daniel wasn't protecting Amara? What if he was protecting himself? "Sit down," Victoria said softly, guiding the girl to the edge of the bed. Amara sat slowly, clutching the backpack like a lifeline. Victoria knelt before her, eye level with the fragile storm brewing behind Amara's eyes. "Tell me everything, from the beginning." Amara exhaled a shaky breath, and her voice dropped to a whisper as if the shadows might hear her story and punish her for it. "The night my mother died, she told me if anything happened to her, I must find the man named Daniel. She said he could keep me safe." Victoria froze. Amara continued, "But after I came here, I found out something else. A secret my mother knew. A secret Daniel desperately wanted to hide." Victoria's pulse hammered in her ears. "What secret?" she whispered. Amara glanced toward the bedroom door as if expecting it to burst open. Then she leaned in, eyes wide, voice thin. "My mother kept a journal, and she wrote that Daniel wasn't just hiding me from danger." She swallowed hard. "He was part of the danger." Victoria's heart stopped.
The secret that should have never been found. For a long moment, Victoria could not speak. The room felt smaller, the air sharper, as if the walls themselves were listening. "Daniel? Part of the danger?" Victoria forced out, each word trembling under the weight of disbelief. Amara reached into her backpack with hesitant fingers. The zipper's soft rasp cut through the thick silence like a blade. "I didn't want to open it at first," the girl whispered, "but I didn't know who else to trust." She pulled out a small leather-bound notebook. Old, worn, edges softened by years of handling. A journal. Her mother's. Victoria stared at it, suddenly afraid to touch the truth. Amara opened the journal slowly, as if exposing a wound. Her voice quivered as she began reading a line her mother had written. "Daniel and I made a mistake years ago, a mistake that people would kill to bury, and now they're coming." Victoria felt her breath hitch. What mistake, she asked, though her heart already feared the answer. Amara turned the page. "My mother didn't write everything. She used codes, symbols, things only she and Daniel understood." Her eyes flicked up, dark with certainty. But one thing was clear. She trusted him once, and something broke them apart.
Victoria took the journal gently, her fingertips brushing the faded ink. Her mind raced. Daniel had always been protective, too protective. He avoided conversations about his past. He shut down anyone who asked questions. And he had forbidden her from using the guest room because his secret was hidden inside it. A sudden knock echoed from downstairs, a single sharp sound that made both of them jump. Victoria's heart slammed against her ribs, Amara's face drained of color. "They can't be here already. Stay behind me," Victoria ordered. Her legs trembled, but she moved with fierce determination. She walked towards the staircase, each step a battle between fear and survival. Another knock, harder. Victoria's breath tightened. Nobody was supposed to come today. Daniel never mentioned visitors, and it was too early for deliveries. She reached the bottom of the stairs, peeking towards the front door. A shadow shifted beneath the frosted glass. Not one silhouette, two. "Victoria," a male voice called, deep, calm, too polite. Her stomach churned. Amara whispered behind her, voice cracking. "That's them. I know that voice." Victoria's blood turned cold. "Are you sure?" Amara nodded, tears streaking down her cheeks. "That's the man who killed my mother." Victoria felt the world tilt. The doorknob began to turn slowly, deliberately, as if the person outside already knew the lock wouldn't save them. Victoria grabbed Amara's hand. "Upstairs, now." The girl didn't hesitate. They ran. At the top of the stairs, Victoria felt her phone vibrate. A message from Daniel. Her body froze as she read the short, chilling text. "Do not open the door. I'm on my way. They found her." The house shook as the front door burst open.
When the door broke, the truth entered. The house vibrated as the front door crashed inward, slamming against the wall with brutal force. The sound tore through the silence like a scream. Victoria's heart thundered in her chest. "Go," she whispered fiercely, pushing Amara toward the small storage room on the upper floor. They slipped inside, closing the door quietly behind them. The thin wood did little to muffle the sound of heavy footsteps entering the house below. Two men, moving with deliberate confidence, not fear. These weren't burglars. They weren't panicked. They came with purpose. Victoria pressed her ear against the door. Her pulse roared. A deep voice spoke. "Search the rooms. The girl is here." It was the same voice Amara had recognized. The voice of her mother's killer. Amara trembled violently beside Victoria, clutching the backpack like it was the last piece of her life. Victoria squeezed her hand, whispering, "I won't let them take you." "But they'll hurt you," Amara whispered, tears falling silently. "They hurt everyone who gets close." Victoria felt a flare of anger and courage burn through her chest. For a girl she had only known for minutes, but already felt responsible for. "What they don't know," Victoria whispered, "is that I'm not easy to break." Downstairs, a second voice growled. "She couldn't have gone far. Check the upstairs. The man said she would hide." Victoria's blood froze. The man said. Which man? Daniel? Or someone else? The footsteps began climbing the stairs, slow, heavy, approaching with lethal patience. Victoria scanned the small storage room, heart hammering. Dusty shelves, old boxes, a narrow window barely big enough for a child to squeeze through. "We can climb out," Victoria whispered. Amara panicked. "No, I'm scared of heights." "We don't have a choice." The footsteps reached the top of the staircase. Victoria pushed aside a box, flipped the window latch, and pulled it open. Cold wind rushed in, stinging her skin. The footsteps came closer. "Go first," Victoria urged. Amara hesitated, but then climbed onto the small ledge, her legs shaking. Victoria guided her carefully, whispering reassurances until a floorboard outside the storage door creaked. Both froze. A man's calm voice murmured, "Room by room, and don't damage anything. He wants her alive." Victoria's breath caught. He wants her alive. Who was he? Daniel? Someone Daniel feared? Or someone Daniel obeyed? Amara whispered, voice trembling like glass. "Victoria, if they take me, they'll kill you." Victoria put her hand gently on the girl's cheek. "Not happening. Not tonight, not ever." A shadow darkened the gap beneath the door. Footsteps stopped right outside. Victoria held her breath as the doorknob began to turn. Slow, steady, inevitable. But just before the door could fully open, a gunshot cracked through the house like lightning. Amara gasped. Victoria covered her mouth, holding her close. More gunshots followed, 2, then 3, echoing through the hallway. Then silence. Heavy. Absolute. Amara's eyes were wide with terror. "Who was that?" she whispered. Victoria, trembling, whispered the only name that made sense. Daniel. Because only Daniel had the key to the house. Only Daniel would kill to keep something hidden. And only Daniel knew exactly where they were.
A husband covered in shadows. The hallway was a graveyard of silence. Victoria held Amara close to her chest, the girl trembling like a small bird caught in a storm. Downstairs, the echo of gunshots still hung in the air, thick and metallic, refusing to fade. Then, footsteps. Slow, heavy, familiar. Victoria's breath caught as a shadow moved toward the storage room. The doorknob twisted again, but this time it didn't creep. It opened fast, confident, like the person on the other side owned the fear in the room. Daniel stood in the doorway. His shirt was smeared with dust and sweat. His right hand gripped a gun. His left hand dripped a thin line of blood from a scraped knuckle. His eyes locked on Amara, then shifted to Victoria. And Victoria saw something she had never seen before. Not anger, not fear, but guilt. Crushing, suffocating guilt. "Victoria," he breathed, voice shaking. "We need to leave now." But she didn't move. Her voice was cold, controlled, sharp as shattered glass. "Did you kill them?" Daniel swallowed. He didn't answer immediately, which was an answer in itself. "I did what I had to. If they took Amara, she wouldn't survive the night." Amara flinched. Victoria stepped in front of her defensively, her protective instincts sharper than her fear. "Who were they, Daniel? And why are they looking for a 17-year-old girl?" Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, as if gathering the courage to face the truth he'd been running from for years. "Victoria," he whispered, "I never wanted you involved in this." "But I am involved," she snapped. "You brought danger into my home. You hid your daughter from me, and now men with guns are inside our house. Talk." His jaw tightened. He stepped inside, kicked the door shut behind him, and leaned his weight against it. "I wasn't always the man you know," he said slowly. Victoria stared at him, heart pounding. "I can see that." Daniel looked at Amara, really looked at her, with a mixture of grief and love that twisted Victoria's stomach. Her mother, Zara. She and I were part of something years ago, something we shouldn't have touched. Amara's voice quivered. "The journal said—" "I know what the journal said.
Daniel cut in, pain flashing across his face. And most of it is true. Victoria felt the room tilt. He continued. There was a program, illegal, hidden, government-backed but off the books. Zara and I discovered it by accident. We were young, stupid, and thought exposing it would save people. Victoria whispered. Exposing what? Daniel's voice broke. That the organization was experimenting on children. Amara gasped. Victoria felt her knees weaken. She whispered, They used kids like test subjects? Daniel nodded. And when Zara found proof, she became a target. So did I. And when Amara was born, he swallowed hard. We decided the only way to protect her was to disappear. Amara's knees buckled, and Victoria held her up. But Zara couldn't stay hidden forever, Daniel said, his voice cracking. They found her, and they killed her because they thought she still had the evidence. Amara whispered, My mother told me to find you. Daniel nodded, tears gathering in his eyes. She knew I would never let them take you. Victoria stared at him, heart cracking under the weight of revelations she didn't know how to hold. And the men you shot downstairs? She whispered. Daniel wiped his brow, breathing hard. They're not done. They're scouts. More will come. His voice hardened. We're running, all three of us, right now. Victoria narrowed her eyes, fire rising inside her. You're going to explain everything to me, Daniel. Every lie, every secret, every betrayal. Daniel looked at her with broken resignation. If we survive tonight, I promise you'll know everything. Amara squeezed Victoria's hand, eyes terrified. And from downstairs, a new sound echoed. Car doors, slamming, multiple footsteps approaching the house. Daniel's face drained of color. They're here.
A house no longer safe. The moment Daniel whispered, "They're here," the air itself seemed to tighten around them. Victoria felt her heartbeat pulse in her ears like a warning siren. Amara grabbed her hand. "Victoria, I'm scared." Victoria cupped the girl's face gently. "I know, but you're not alone. We're fighting this together." Downstairs, a shark voice barked. "Fan out. Cover every exit. We retrieved the girl alive." Boots thundered across the hardwood floor. Victoria felt her stomach twist. These men were trained, organized, not street criminals, professionals. Daniel checked his weapon, hands steady despite the sweat forming on his brow. "We have to move," he said. "They'll sweep the rooms in less than a minute." Victoria glared at him. "And go where, Daniel? Out the front door? Into their arms?" Daniel hesitated, and that hesitation terrified her more than the gunmen. Then he nodded toward the master bedroom. "There's a hidden exit behind the wardrobe. Zara and I built it years ago. It leads under the house." Victoria's eyes widened. "You had a secret tunnel in our home and never told me?" Daniel winced. There was never a safe moment. Victoria's voice was sharp. There was never a right moment for the truth, but there were hundreds of moments to choose from. Boots stomped up the stairs. Daniel grabbed them both. "Please, fight me later. We run now." Amara nodded desperately. Victoria, still furious, still confused, still heartbroken, moved. They sprinted down the hallway just as shadows appeared at the end of it. "Contact!" a man shouted. Gunfire erupted, bullets tearing into the walls behind them, splinters exploding like sparks. Victoria ducked, dragging Amara with her. Daniel fired back blind shots to slow the men and shoved open the master bedroom door.
Inside, he yanked the massive wooden wardrobe forward, revealing a narrow tunnel entrance behind it. Victoria stared at it, a mix of shock and betrayal twisting inside her chest. "How long has this been here?" she demanded. Daniel didn't answer. He pushed Amara toward it. "Go, now." Amara crawled inside. Victoria started to follow, but a bullet cracked through the doorframe, missing her head by inches. One of the gunmen shouted, "Don't shoot the girl. Get the woman." Victoria froze. Get the woman? Why her? Daniel pulled her into the tunnel, anger and fear colliding in his eyes. "Move," he whispered urgently. "I'll close it behind us." As she crawled through the narrow darkness, cold earth brushing her elbows, Victoria couldn't help but think. Something about this wasn't adding up. Why did these men know the house so well? Why did they know exactly where to look? Why were they instructed not to shoot Amara, but to capture her? Her breath grew shallow. She looked back at Daniel, who was sealing the tunnel door shut. "Daniel," she whispered, voice shaking, "are they after her or after me?" Daniel's expression changed, just for a second. A flash of pain, a flicker of truth he still wasn't telling, and that terrified her more than the gunmen. "They're after the journal," he said, "and they think you have it." Victoria's heart dropped. "But You touched it. They have sensors that track its location. They think you're carrying it." "What sensors? What technology?" A deafening explosion shook the house above them, the tunnel ceiling raining dust and earth on their heads. Daniel grabbed Victoria's arm. "No more questions. We run." Amara cried out, covering her head as dirt fell around them. Victoria pulled her close. The tunnel vibrated again. Daniel shouted, "They're planting charges. They want to bring the house down." Victoria's breath caught. This wasn't just a chase. This was an execution. All three of them sprinted deeper into the darkness, the sounds of collapsing walls echoing behind them, with only one thought in Victoria's mind. If Daniel lied once, what else was he still hiding?
The tunnel of buried truths. The tunnel grew narrower as they ran, the cold earth echoing every frantic breath. Victoria held Amara's hand tightly, feeling the girl stumble beside her, exhausted and terrified. Behind them, the sounds of destruction grew fainter, but the weight of danger only intensified. Daniel pushed them forward until a faint light appeared ahead. A hatch. An exit. Victoria climbed out first, pulling Amara after her. The night air slapped her skin, cold, sharp, and oddly freeing. They were in the woods behind their neighborhood, hidden among twisted trees and thick branches. Daniel emerged last, closing the hatch and kicking leaves over it. For a moment, silence hovered around them, but it wasn't peaceful. It was the silence before answers. Victoria faced Daniel, her voice low and furious. "Start talking. All of it, right now." Daniel wiped dirt from his face, breathing hard. "I told you. Zara and I found something dangerous, something big." Victoria stepped closer. "You keep saying that. Something, the program, the organization. What is it, Daniel? What were they experimenting on? Children for what?" Daniel looked away, jaw tight. Amara spoke first, voice small. "It wasn't medical, was it?" Daniel's expression flickered. Victoria felt her stomach twist. "Daniel?" He met her eyes, and for the first time, Victoria saw genuine fear in him. Not fear of the men chasing them, but fear of the truth itself. "They were creating identities," Daniel whispered. "Artificial ones. with technology that could rewrite a child's entire past. Victoria frowned, confused. Rewrite? Like false documents? Daniel shook his head slowly. No. Rewrite their memories, their personalities, their sense of self. Amara gasped. Victoria froze. What? She whispered. Daniel ran a shaky hand through his hair. It started as a psychological experiment, but it evolved. They began wiping memories from children, implanting new ones, training them for roles they could control, some for infiltration, some for intelligence, some for obedience. Victoria felt sick. They took their lives, their identities? She whispered. Daniel nodded. Zara and I stumbled into the wrong facility, saw the wrong files, and when they realized we knew, they silenced her. Victoria finished for him. Her voice trembled with rage. But where do I fit into this? Daniel hesitated. Victoria, there's something you don't know about Zara. Amara stiffened. Don't talk about her like she was part of this. The girl pleaded. Daniel's eyes softened. She wasn't part of it. Zara was trying to expose them, but she wasn't alone. Victoria felt her pulse spike. What does that mean? He met her gaze. Zara wasn't the only woman they targeted. Victoria's blood ran cold. What are you saying? He took a slow breath, the kind a person takes before dropping a truth heavy enough to break the world. Victoria, you weren't supposed to find out like this. Amara looked between them confused. Daniel whispered, Zara wasn't the only woman they monitored. Victoria's heart pounded painfully. Daniel stepped closer, his voice barely audible. You were on their list, too. Victoria staggered back as if struck. Me? Why me? And nobody. Daniel's face twisted with guilt. That's the thing. You weren't nobody to them. He swallowed. You were a candidate. Victoria felt the force edge around her. A candidate for what? Daniel looked down, then back up with eyes full of apology and fear. For identity erasure. Victoria's breath died in her throat. Amara covered her mouth in horror. Daniel continued. They were watching you long before we met. You fit the profile. Early trauma, strong resilience, no close family ties, predictable routines. Victoria's voice cracked. You're telling me someone wanted to erase me? Daniel nodded slowly. And the journal your hands touched tonight not just exposes what happened to Zara. It exposes what they plan to do to you. A cold, hollow silence swallowed them. Amara reached for Victoria's hand, whispering, They wanted to erase who you are. Victoria felt tears sting her eyes, but before she could absorb any of it, rustling sounded through the trees. Daniel raised the gun instantly. Run, he whispered. They found us.
The forest that was never silent. Branches cracked somewhere behind them. Not loud, not clumsy, precise. A trained footstep. Daniel pushed Victoria and Amara behind a thick fallen tree, lowering himself with the gun raised.
"Stay quiet," he whispered. Victoria's pulse hammered in her throat. Amara clutched her sleeve, trembling violently. Through the shadows of the trees, faint red lights moved, laser sights sweeping the darkness. "They brought trackers," Daniel muttered under his breath. "This isn't a chase anymore. It's a hunt." Victoria held Amara close. "Why won't they leave us alone? Why are they risking so much for this journal?" Daniel didn't look at her. His eyes scanned the forest, calculating every angle. "They don't want information," he said softly. "They want silence." A twig snapped nearby. Daniel cursed under his breath. Victoria whispered, urgency dripping from every word. "You still haven't answered my question. Why me? Why would they want to erase me?" Daniel hesitated, and his hesitation terrified her more than the men with guns. "Victoria, they didn't choose you randomly." Amara looked up at her with frightened eyes. Daniel continued, "They target people who can survive the wipe, people whose minds can rebuild around a new identity without collapsing." Victoria frowned. "How would they know that?" Daniel finally looked at her. "Because you survived something once, something most people wouldn't." Victoria froze. "What are you talking about?" Daniel swallowed. "Your car accident, the one you had at 22. Victoria stared at him stunned. She has spoken about that accident maybe twice in her entire life. "How do you know about that?" Daniel lowered the gun slightly. "Because it wasn't an accident, Victoria." Her heart stopped. Everything inside her turned to ice. "What did you say?" Daniel's voice dropped into a painful whisper. "They tried to take you then, but you fought back. They thought you were dead, but you lived." Victoria stared at him, horror flooding her chest. "Daniel, tell me the truth. Did you know all this when you met me?" Daniel's silence answered before his lips did. "Yes." Victoria felt the forest tilt beneath her feet. "You married me because of them." "No," Daniel snapped, eyes burning. "I married you because I fell in love with you. I married you because you saved me from myself. But yes, at first, I watched you for them." Victoria stepped back as if physically struck. "So you were my assignment. You were supposed to be," Daniel whispered violently, "but after 1 month with you, I refused to continue. I cut them off. I walked away." Victoria shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. "You lied to me for years." Daniel's voice cracked. "I had to. If they knew I loved you, they'd come after you harder." Amara's breath hitched. "They wanted to erase you because you were strong enough to survive it." Victoria wiped her eyes. Anger, betrayal, confusion, fear. But no time to break. A laser sight swept directly over the fallen tree they hid behind. "Move," he hissed, grabbing them. "We head to the ravine. The water will hide our heat signatures." They darted through the trees, breathless. Shouts erupted behind them. "Target spotted!" Gunfire lit the forest in violent flashes. Victoria grabbed Amara's hand and ran faster, her heart ripping through her chest. As they neared the ravine, Victoria's foot slipped on wet moss. Daniel grabbed her, steadying her. And in that moment, over the roar of the river below, he said the words that made her entire world fracture. "Victoria, I didn't just fall in love with you." She stared at him, breath shaking. Daniel whispered, "I betrayed them for you." A bullet tore past Daniel's shoulder, so close it burned the air. "Jump!" he shouted. Victoria held Amara tight, and the three of them leapt into the rushing darkness of the ravine. The river that took them. The icy current yanked at them like a living thing, dragging Victoria, Daniel, and Amara through the darkness. The roar of the water drowned out the gunfire and shouts behind them, leaving only the sound of their frantic breaths. For the first time in hours, Victoria felt a twisted sense of relief, at least for this moment. Amara clung to her like a lifeline, shivering, her eyes wide with terror and disbelief.
Daniel's strokes were precise and strong, his free hand holding the gun above water, scanning the blackness for any sign of pursuit. "Hold on to me," he shouted, his voice barely audible over the river's roar. Victoria's muscles burned, lungs screamed for air, but instinct and survival propelled her forward. Up ahead, through the spray and darkness, a faint glimmer. Rocks and tangled roots revealed a narrow cave entrance. "Over there!" Daniel yelled. He guided them through the violent current, pulling them into the cave just as the water surged past. Inside, the air was cooled, damp, and filled with the earthy scent of moss. The river's roar softened to a muffled hum, replaced by ragged breathing and the echo of fear. Victoria sank to the ground, cradling Amara protectively. Her body shook, not just from cold, but from adrenaline and the weight of everything revealed that day. Daniels lowered himself beside them, eyes darting toward the cave entrance. Exhaustion mingled with vigilance in his posture. Victoria finally spoke, her voice raw and trembling. "So they wanted to erase me. They killed Zara. They're still coming for the journal, and I—" Her lips quivered. "Was never supposed to survive? Never supposed to exist in peace?" Daniel's hand found hers, firm and steady. "You survived for a reason. Zara's fight, your survival, it's all connected. The journal isn't just proof, it's a weapon against them." Amara whispered, voice small but determined, "Then what do we do? We can't hide here forever." Daniel nodded. "First, we survive. Then we fight. We have allies, people Zara trusted, waiting for the right moment." Victoria's anger flared, a bright, burning ember. "But Daniel, you lied, watched me, kept secrets that could have killed us all." Daniel's gaze dropped, heavy with guilt. "I know. I will carry that forever. But everything I did to keep you alive, and Amara alive." Amara clutched Victoria's arm tightly. "Then we fight together?" Victoria looked at her stepdaughter, fragile, but already so brave. "Yes," she said, her voice iron-strong despite the tears. "We fight together." Outside, the river raged on, relentless. For the first time, Victoria realized they weren't just running anymore. They were surviving, and survival was only the beginning.
The final reckoning. The cave was silent, except for the ragged breaths of Victoria, Amara, and Daniel. Outside, the river roared, a relentless reminder of the chaos they had narrowly escaped. Victoria looked at Daniel, her face streaked with dirt, sweat, and tears. "Enough. Secrets," she said, voice trembling but firm. "I need the truth. All of it." Daniel nodded slowly, exhaustion etched on his face. He took a deep breath, then revealed everything: the program, Zara's death, the organization hunting them, and his initial surveillance of Victoria. He told her how they had hidden the journal, why the men had been sent after them, and how every step had been a choice between survival and love. Amara, trembling, finally spoke. "Then we fight them? Together?" Victoria's chest tightened. She had spent hours running, fearing, doubting, but in that moment, she realized something. Fear had not broken her. Betrayal had not broken her. And neither would these enemies. Yes, Victoria said, her voice low but unwavering. We fight and we survive together. The next morning, the organization came again, but Victoria, Daniel, and Amara were ready. Using the journal as leverage, combined with the evidence Zara had left hidden, they exposed the leaders of the organization to the authorities. Victoria faced Daniel afterward, the weight of the past hanging between them. "You lied," she said softly. "Yes," he admitted, "but I loved you, and I would do it all over again to keep you alive." Amara looked up at them both, eyes shining. "You're my family," she whispered. Victoria hugged her tightly. "Yes, Amara, now and forever." Months later, the three of them rebuilt their lives. No more secrets, no more shadows, no more running. Victoria stood in her home one evening, looking out at the sunset. She was no longer just a survivor. She was a mother, a protector, and a woman who had faced the impossible and won. And in her heart, she finally understood some truths are dangerous. Some betrayals are bitter. But love, real love, can survive anything. The journal sat on the shelf, a silent reminder of the past. But the future, that was theirs to write.
If this story moved you, consider leaving a small donation and subscribe this channel. It helps me create more stories just like this. Your support means the world. Now, I'm curious. What would you have done in this situation? Comment below. I can't wait to read your thoughts. Also, tell me, where did this story find you? If you loved it, hit like and subscribe to join our community of story lovers. There are so many more amazing stories waiting for you. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.